Hi, everybody, and welcome. Just a few moments here while we get started. Looking forward to getting going here with you shortly, but hang tight as the rest of our team joins here shortly. And the rest of the attendees. So hang tight. I'll have the screen up here shortly. And if you guys have any questions, just send them in the chat. Thank you. Hello, everybody, and welcome. I know we have a few people still trickling in. We'll get started here in just 1 second, but thanks for attending, and we will get started shortly. Alrighty. And now, as I say that, a whole bunch more people trickle in, but thank you guys so much. Appreciate you guys taking the time to check out the webinar today. My name is Eric Vitardi. I'm here with Foundation Software, more specifically SafetyHQ. We are here to talk today about specifically slips, trips, and falls, how we can avoid them, how we can use HR or SafetyHQ to avoid them as we go as well too. As many of you guys know, slips, trips, falls, or just falls in general, they are the most common OSHA incident recording that we have out there. So if you're running into some kind of accident on the job site, chances are a slip, trip, or a fall is going to be kind of where that begins. Obviously, there's a lot of other things that can go wrong as a whole, but that's the one big thing that we end up seeing. People getting fined for more than anything is things associated with slips, trips, and falls. So today we're going to focus in on that. There's not a ton. I know we're talking with a bunch of people from different trades and groups here too. So we'll be a little bit more generic as a whole. But as we go, we'll kind of talk in some focuses, some strategies that we can manage to address that collectively. And hopefully you guys get some more information out of it. We'll keep this to about a half hour today, so I might go a little bit quickly, but we're happy to circle back at any time if you guys have any additional questions, and I'd be happy to help. So I can be reached at this information right here. Just feel free to contact me right here, 800-246-0800 or edv@foundationsoft.com. And if you guys have any questions, just pop them in the chat. I will look at those periodically throughout the presentation, but I will do my best to get to as many of them as we can at the end here as well. So again, try and keep this to a half hour for those of you that are kind of approaching the lunch hour or the late morning for those of you depending on where you're at in the States. But without further ado, let's get going. So SafetyHQ, this is kind of, I'm going to use SafetyHQ Selfishly, it's kind of our product, but I'll kind of use this to guide a lot of the principles that we're going to focus in on today and kind of how we can avoid these. Again, if you guys don't use SafetyHQ or if you guys don't use any kind of software as a whole, I'll still be trying to highlight some items and strategies and techniques that we can do to eliminate or at least greatly reduce slips, trips, and falls on the job site as well too. But again, this is going to be what I'm going to use just because it is extremely helpful to have a powerful tool, at your disposal when you're kind of managing safety. So for me, for SafetyHQ, this is an app. I can use this on iPhone, tablet, Android. There's a whole bunch of stuff that we can get into there as a whole. But I'm going to use it to highlight our Toolbox Talk section. If you guys do nothing else in the way of safety, we've been doing this software has existed in one way, shape, or form for about 7-8 years. So plenty of OSHA inspections, the best of the best, the worst of the worst. We've seen some that have gone really well. We've seen some that have gone not so great. I guess that's a polite way of saying it as a whole too. But if you do nothing else from a safety perspective, and I know it's kind of a spectrum, right? We got some varied degrees of safety participation, how people do things, how they focus on them, what's important to each company, really varied. But the first thing that I would recommend, number one, most often, is do something along the lines of a toolbox talk or a continued education. That's going to be one of the first things that you get asked if an incident or an accident occurs. With SafetyHQ, we have a lot of tools. We can schedule these toolbox talks out. We can collect a record to show who was on what toolbox talk when. That's all automatically done for us. There's a lot of variation as far as, all right, I have a safety manager that's dedicated to all of these things. We have a really strong organization process, or yeah, my safety team is a lot of people who do other things and just so happen to wear a safety hat when it's required. So I guess first and foremost, as you're kind of architecting this and managing things like a toolbox talk, or at least your toolbox talk structure, make it somebody's responsibility. Ideally, it is under, somebody whose hat is strictly safety. But if you're doing multiple things, I understand that's not necessarily feasible for every single business out there. At least make it accountable and a task and a role and responsibility for somebody in your organization. That's step number one, right? You want to get somebody to go ahead and send something out and related to, obviously in this case, we're talking about slips, trips, and falls, but continued education as far as toolbox talks as a whole is one of the most beneficial ways that we can prevent not only the accidents, injuries, incidents occurring in the first place, but also those heavy penalties, fines, and maybe prolonged absences that might come along with those, as you go from there. So find some topics. In SafetyHQ, we have about 200 or so that are, available for all different trades and specialties within construction. But your trade organization may have some, you can find some on the internet as a whole too. In our particular library, we focus more on that than anything else. You'll see a lot of fall protection related things as a whole, just simply because that is the most common and the most frequent item as we go from there, as far as fines and write-ups are concerned. So step one to preventing those slips, trips, falls, accidents, things along those lines. Start with those toolbox talks, make them regular, make them part of your company and your crew's regular routine, right? So for us, we can go ahead and schedule these out, right? I can schedule these in advance if I'd like, put them on a scheduled date, kind of set them and forget them. With this tool, we can also collect signatures for the group as a whole. So if they want to get in here, they get assigned a toolbox talk through the app. They can make their selection. I'll pick a project here just as an example. Me picking this project is just an organizational tool. So even if you don't have SafetyHQ or something, just find a way to make sure you organize those by project, by employee, what have you. Collecting a signature and showing verification of that knowledge transfer is always what OSHA is looking for, either when it's a training, a toolbox talk, what have you. I know it's annoying sometimes to collect all those signatures, but this is an extremely valuable tool to protect yourself and to protect your employees, right? If they know they're going to be signing off on something, they do pay attention a little bit more. And then from here, once we submit this, and I'm not trying to make this a full SafetyHQ demo today, happy to do so for anybody that's interested in more information. But once I complete those and I collect those signatures, those are automatically organized in the system. So either find an organizational tool that works for you. Maybe it's, Excel files, is who's completed what and when, check marks, put them in a paper filing cabinet, what have you. But being able to reference these and go back is extremely important. It's fine and dandy if you do all these, but if you can't produce this information as needed when an incident occurs, or when you need to provide that, it doesn't do you much good. Along those same lines, making sure that teams are regularly participating and complying with your safety standards, that's just as important, if not more important, right? You can send toolbox talks out with your paychecks and say, hey guys, are you doing them? But if you never get those back, you don't know who's doing them where, it's not helpful. You're wasting your time, you're wasting your employees' time, whoever's going through and printing all those out, it's just a waste. From here, we can see who's done what, where. We can notify the team if they're falling behind. We can see progress as we go. I also recommend a really beneficial strategy that a lot of our clients employ is an incentive program. It doesn't need to be exact, right? You don't need to really rule with an iron fist, so to speak. If you have any kind of incentive program to just say, hey, yeah, you need to at least complete 4 out of 5 or 80% or however many of these, then you're eligible for hockey tickets, baseball tickets, for lunch for your crew or something along those lines. However you do it, it doesn't need to be a lot of money. It doesn't need to be a huge investment one way or the other, time, whatever it might be. But it does show that it's important for you, for the management team, for ownership, for whoever's involved, even from the safety perspective, to show we do care about toolbox talks. We want those to be done on a regular basis. So kind of to put a bow on that piece, make sure you're doing toolbox talks, number one. Number two, make sure they're organized appropriately and you have a strategy behind them. And number three, make sure that you are actually confirming and reviewing that those are completed. If not, again, it is really just a waste of time. It sounds really harsh, but if you're not following up and you're not making sure the team's doing it, they're just not going to do it. They're not going to do anything additional that you don't require them to do. Maybe your team is different than a lot of the folks we work with, but they want to get in, do their production related tasks and move on for the day. So make sure you're following up, make sure you have some parameters in place. Again, maybe it's a software like SafetyHQ, maybe it's tapping somebody in your organization to manage this fully and be fully responsible for it. But take those steps, one by one to make sure that we're doing those continued educations on toolbox talks. Now, we have some options in here as far as JHAs, site inspections. These are fully customizable and configurable forms. Everybody kind of does this process a little bit differently, right? If you don't do a JHA, I know I talk to a lot of clients that say, yeah, we just do a JHA, but it's only when our GC requires it, or it's only when I work on XYZ job site. Too many acronyms, too many letters, I apologize. But make this a habit. Making safety a habit is something I'm going to kind of keep hammering you guys with as we continue the presentation. But again, don't just do the JHAs on sites in which you're required to. Make it a habit. Maybe it doesn't need to be daily. Maybe it isn't every single task as OSHA requires or recommends. You can go ahead and do those on a regular basis. Make it part of the process. So I'll go ahead and, for ours, these are logic-based forms. So based on what I select, it's only going to show me the hazards related to what I've selected, and then only the controls. But for those of you that are not familiar with JHAs as a whole, this is an opportunity for either a foreman, a site leader, a project manager, whoever it may be, to review the site, review some particular hazards or concerns that job site might present to your team, and discuss how you're going to address these things, how we're going to avoid accidents and injuries, make teams aware of these hazards and concerns that are either unique to that job site, that project as a whole, and talk about them in advance, right? Every project's got some different nuance, every project's got some different needs, what have you. If you make a habit out of this and you bring this up to the team in advance and say, hey, be careful because of XYZ fall protection or slip, trip, and fall risk, maybe you don't normally work outside and this area is going to be covered in rain. We got some serious concerns for slippage. You would be surprised at how beneficial it is to just point those types of things out in advance. A lot of those things that you might think are common sense, not necessarily common sense to the team, or they're just not paying attention to it. So pointing out these things in advance, again, there is a whole bunch of benefits as far as lowering your workers' comp, protecting yourself in the case of an accident or an injury or an OSHA investigation. But what we really care about here is preventing this issue as a whole and keeping your team employed and working on the job site. How we can do that, making the team aware of those hazards as we start. Again, you don't have to bring them through a really big song and dance and a really lengthy form. That's what we try and do with our software as a whole, is we try and focus them on just what's important for the group as a whole. We have a whole bunch of templates that we can get you started on as a whole too, but we can collect signatures, show participation from the team. It's also really handy. I see the teams that are really successful at this take photos. They walk the job site in advance. They show you, hey, I've noticed that this entryway is a little bit, it's not well lit. We want to make sure that as, dusk kind of comes, we're paying attention to how we're exiting this part of the job site or what have you. Take some photos, mark those photos up. You can certainly do that in our platform, or the team can do that in any way, shape, or form that they have, even if they're just doing simple drawings on paper. Any little bit helps, guys, but the key here is making this part of your routine, following up, same as what I mentioned on Toolbox Talks, making sure that they're doing this regularly. For us, we have these automatically organized. It's really simple and easy. You can pull this up by project, by date range, manage this and see who's completed this, just the same as the Toolbox Talks. We really focus on making this user-friendly. Again, if you don't use a software, make it user-friendly, make it a habit, make it something that the team can participate and do every day that isn't going to completely bog them down. Focusing them on the keys is better than them going through a really lengthy report that they're really not going to participate and fully pay attention to. Another piece that I like to point out is a job site inspection. Again, sometimes this overlaps with a JHA, sometimes the JHAs overlap with Toolbox Talks. But the teams that I see doing things most effectively and really eliminating a lot of fall risk as they get out there is reviewing the job site as a whole. You get in, it's like anything, right? I got a newborn at home, so it's kind of a goofy, everyone's like, wow, she's so much bigger after 2 weeks. Well, if you see the same, in this case, baby, every day, right? You don't necessarily notice the changes every single day, but folks that come in and walk the job site separately, they can notice those changes that, maybe this thing that's been hanging off here, or this thing that could present a fall risk that's been there since you started the job. If you notice it every day, you might not notice it. So either focusing some time on here to walk that site and really have a keen eye for those items, really beneficial, or have somebody separately do it. If it's a safety manager, great, that's really beneficial. If you don't have those resources, focus in on one individual and really focus that, hey, they get there 20 minutes before the rest of the team, before all the, talking about last night's blowout and the Cavs game or whatever it might be, occurs. For the Celtics fans, congratulations, we suck. But you have a lot of options there. Whatever, all the hubbub that kind of begins with your day as you get started, knock that out in advance, make it early, walk that job site when you don't have those distractions, and then do it again once the day's kind of begun, all the hecticness has begun, and you can see how the job site is evolving once people are changing, they're working on that site, making, whatever adjustments that they need. So you go ahead, review that, make it a habit again. For us, we have a lot of tools as far as being able to, use logic. I'll go to fall protection specifically. We pick a couple of questions that are important, but again, we're not going to bother them with the harness question if they're not using them on the site. If they are, okay, let's ask them some additional questions. But the inspections are only as good as being able to follow through and update those. You're going to actually expose yourself to more risk if you do an inspection and you don't follow through and you don't act on those items. Then we got some serious items as far as OSHA is concerned. But make that easy for the team. If you see an issue on the site, for us, we can automatically tag that deficiency, route this, and automatically manage who this goes to and who's going to manage it. I'll take a photo here. If I'm on my phone, I can snap a quick photo, mark it up, what have you. But make it simple for the team. Don't make overly complex processes to get situations resolved. empower them to make changes, empower them to make that part of their daily routine, is to go through and actively change those things. Again, you might not see it on the bottom line right away, but when you have people working regularly and you don't lose man hours, you don't lose time because of slips, trips, falls, near misses, you name it, it's really beneficial to the bottom line to take that 10, 15 minutes to go ahead and just address what you need to do right away, which I could do right here and make some notes, or assign it to the people that need to handle this separately. So take that time. I promise you, it will affect the dollars and cents as we get into this. Again, from a labor perspective, from an ease of work perspective, and honestly, from a retention standpoint. We see a lot of folks stick with companies longer because they have a safety program that's well established, that's a part of their routine. They see it every day. They may not list that as a reason that they want to stay with a company, but people really do like working with safe people. They want to get home. They don't want to deal with a lot of headaches. They don't want goofballs kind of putting them at risk, what have you. So if you make those safety procedures part of their day, whether they mention it to you or not, they like working with that. All in all, these are all things that actually do affect the bottom line outside of the huge OSHA fines, the workers' comp, EMR ratings that we can lower, all that kind of stuff. So again, make this simple and easy. We have a ton of tools. I can't get into all those details here today too, but we can manage all that routing. I like to show this as an example. Again, however you might be doing this, track this, see how you're doing, make it a routine, number one, track those trends, see where we're at, see if we're getting better. Show this to the team, show them, hey, we've seen, our deficiencies go down. We've gotten better on the job sites. Reward them. They like to hear positive feedback. A lot of times with safety managers or safety programs as a whole, people only hear what happens negatively. They tune out. They're not as invested as they might be as a whole. Show them the positive changes that you guys have made. Show, I know there's like those, even with like The Office, or just those kind of tired 0 days since last accident or what have you. Point out the times in which you guys have been successful and eliminated accidents, injuries, slips, trips, falls, and reinforce that to the team as you go. So we have a lot of tools. There's 1,000 things I can get into as far as trend tracking and analysis. We don't have the time here today. I don't want to make this a full software demo. There's plenty of times that I can do that with you if you'd like afterwards. I'm going to skip over STS, is not really relevant to the conversation that we're talking about today. The last two pieces that I really kind of want to talk about here are trainings, tracking certification, and incident reporting as a whole too. So obviously we talk about toolbox talks, we talk about on-site forms such as JHAs, inspections, regular communication with the team. That's so important. I would say that's the most important. These trainings, whether they're trainings that we provide, whether they're trainings that you guys provide, whether if you're union and they're provided by the hall, what have you, we have a lot of tools to do regular education. You cannot skip regular education. Just simply from an OSHA standpoint, you got to stay on top of this. Do regular trainings with the team. Again, I know they get all together and maybe it's at your job site, and maybe it's at your office or at a separate site or what have you, and you get some goofballs that are really going to get loud or what have you. Take that time, impress on them how important this is, that you don't want to see somebody get hurt. Anytime you see something along the lines of a near miss, whether it's you, whether it's your peers, whether it's other people in the industry, take advantage of those opportunities in which things ended better than they could have, and talk with them. Say, hey guys, we got to talk. I know we're spending 3 hours on training today and you probably don't want to do it, but this is a really good opportunity. Here's some near misses. Here's some examples, some real life scenarios that we've seen for people nearby us, folks that you've worked with here on, you don't have to point out names, what have you, but use those as learning tools. Tie those into continued education like lessons. We can share trainings, require them to complete quizzes, things along those lines. Use those to really bring that point home and show how really valuable that is. You can even do that with a toolbox talk perspective. Create a toolbox talk on a near miss. Don't use it to necessarily single somebody out, but use it to show, hey, this could have ended a lot worse. This could happen to any one of us. When they see and they can relate to those items, it makes a huge difference. For us, we can share out lessons. We have lessons in here that we can share with you that are stock. But at the same time too, those lessons tie directly into our certification tracking. This is really important. Don't let this training fall through the cracks, guys. I know you guys are tracking 1,000 different things out there. You got a spreadsheet probably as big as who knows what. With our tool, we can notify you in advance of certifications expiring. We can keep photos of their cards, their certificates. We can pull all that stuff in here as well. But have a system, even if it's just Excel, even if it's just ugly, make a habit out of it to check it regularly. It's a real pain to go get guys and folks retested as a whole. But if you go ahead and notify the team and say, hey, you got a certification coming up, again, it just shows the team that you care, that you're paying attention, and that it is important. That's kind of part of building a safety culture, helping to address those slips, trips, falls in advance. You're working on those collectively. If the team knows you're paying attention, if we point out those things as a whole, it is immensely beneficial to preventing those issues as we go. And lastly, guys, again, I don't want to, there's a lot of things that we can do here. I'm not going to make this a software demo collectively. Incident reports as they happen, right? Obviously, we want to prevent these, slips, trips, falls, accidents as a whole, but things do occur, right? We need to make sure that there is a process in place. For us within the software, we can automatically notify the team, whoever needs to be notified as soon as an accident occurs. We can streamline that process to make sure that once an accident occurs, the team can collect that information all in one place. We have that well organized. We can put any documents and things like that that are associated with that fall on here. We have a nice record that we can keep from this as a whole. We can share that with whoever needs to review it. We have that data readily accessible. So again, we can make changes, we can review and prevent issues as we go. And then at the same time, we can actually provide an OSHA 300A. These are some of the requirements that you guys might have as a whole too. But have a process in place for incident reporting to make sure that that is streamlined, that the team is being notified appropriately, that things are handled as quickly. And not just incidents, accidents. I know those are the ones that kind of connect the dots. I've mentioned it before in here. But if you do have a near miss and somebody slips, they catch their feet, it's not such a big deal. Okay, hey, we're fine. Note that, make sure we talk about how this could have ended more, more catastrophically, so to speak, or some other items from there too. So with SafetyHQ, we have a ton of tools. I'm just scratching the surface. I'm trying to keep this to about a half hour today, and I know we have some questions coming in here too. So I'll kind of pull off of my content and go to some of the questions that we have here. I have some questions. Okay, this first one is, I'd like to see how SafetyHQ works. I'd be happy to schedule a demo with you guys. If you guys are interested, I can pull my information back up. Unfortunately, I know for those that are already, and we have some SafetyHQ clients on here, so I don't want to get into the full demo. But if you are interested in seeing some more information, I'd be happy to schedule a one-on-one demo with you. I'll pull up my information here so that you can grab that as you go here too. So shoot me an email, give us a call. Here's some of the features that we kind of offer as a whole for those of you guys that are like curious on SafetyHQ. Who asked that? Somebody's just switching over from Sage. I can't see the name right now. I apologize. But yeah, send me some information. I'd be happy to contact you with you. A half-hour demo, 45 minutes. We can kind of get you what you need from there. Another question. What type of information? My team. Let's see. This is from Terry. Terry says, my team is reluctant to report near misses. They don't want to get yelled at, so they keep a lot of that information to themselves. That's a great example, right? And I think that involves building a safety culture as a whole, right? If you need to take a near miss and you don't want to point out particular people, you don't have to, right? Just show how this can happen to other people. Don't punish people for those items. If not, just say, hey, a simple word of like encouragement to say, hey, I'm really glad you shared that with me. I appreciate you giving me that information. That really helps us all grow and learn and helps avoid issues that could happen to other people. That goes a long way, and it kind of makes people a little bit more open. I know sometimes it could be a boys club out there on those job sites. So if you really impress on the focus is keeping everybody healthy, keeping them on those sites and accessible. A lot of people have families out there. A lot of people have other things that they want to do. Maybe it's a softball league or something like that they want to get after work. Just show them whatever it is. Work is work, and you care about them as a whole, but you want to get them home in one piece. And sometimes that kind of cuts through a lot of that masculinity and some of those headaches that you might have in making an open environment for them to share that kind of stuff as well too. So I got another question on trainings. How do you guys manage trainings? And well, there's a couple of questions on our trainings as a whole too. So videos, PDFs, quizzes. Also, how can I share trainings with my team? So I'm going to take a couple of those questions. This is SafetyHQ specific, so I don't want to kind of get into that too detailed. But we have some training items, fall protection, competent person, a lot of those items as a whole. They can include videos. You can include your own content as well too. A lot of ours include embedded videos and things like that. You can share those. Those automatically update the certification area in there as well. And then we require a quiz for most of ours afterwards, between 10 and 15 questions. We don't try and, it's not the SAT, but we want to make sure that they were paying attention and that they know that we are going to follow up on that. Again, kind of ties back into what I'm saying. Follow up is key. You know, if we show that there is going to be a quiz, although I'm sure they probably hate the quizzes, it shows that there is a reason to pay attention for those things as a whole too. So provide us with today's. I don't have necessarily today's slides. You guys will get a recording copy of this as we go too. So after you guys sign off, you'll get a recording. Hopefully that's happy. And you know what? Even if you guys are on SafetyHQ, maybe you're not interested in moving to a software package and you want to get into just some specific conversations as far as reducing slip, trips, and falls, and you guys got some particular issues or accidents, every use case is different. Give me a call, shoot me an email. We can talk about your specific situation and maybe talk about some of the issues that you guys have had as a team and how you can overcome them. But if you guys walk away from anything, and I apologize, there's a couple more questions that I can't get to today. If you guys walk away from anything, make your processes routine, make it somebody's responsibility. Follow back up on these activities as you go, and make this simple and easy for the team to follow up on as you go. So if anything, take those in steps. Don't beat yourself up. You guys, I've seen thousands of examples, good, bad, ugly, some that are worse than ugly, some that are really great. So everybody does this a little bit differently. This isn't as streamlined as some other areas of the business or some other practices that you guys might run into. So like with payroll or something along those lines. So don't beat yourself up. Take it one step at a time. Look for some opportunities and tools that can help you out as you go. And again, if you guys want to have a conversation, I'd love to have one with you. Just give me a shout. But for that, have a safe summer, guys. I know a lot of you guys are getting into a busy season this time of year. If there's anything we can help you with, just let us know. Hopefully some of this was helpful for you. And if you have any other questions, just let us know and we'll go from there. But thank you guys and have a wonderful day.